Went into the GPO, did you see the volunteers go in and take it over?
I didn't see the first ones. It was taken over when I saw it. It was just over. It was after 12. And I was in Great Denmark Street, and this batch of volunteers were marched past. And I walked up then on the footpath, and I went where they were going, and they went to the GPO. And they crossed over there from where McDowell's shop is, the jewellers. And they crossed over from there. And I found myself going over that way too, but not with them, but just beside them. And I thought I'd go over on the other footpath, but I was stopped there. And I was told that I couldn't go any further. And they went in. But at that time I saw the other volunteers in the post office putting the furniture and making barricades at the window. So I went round to the front, and I looked at operations from the front. After a few minutes, I heard the horses and saw the lancers, and they were now right in front of the post office, and one was shot off, the horse. And I think that's in history, isn't it? And I saw that. I wouldn't be able to recognize the man or any of them, because I was a distance away.
Quite. And then you walked over O'Connell Street and knocked on the door of the GPO?
I just walked across, you know where Cleary's is? Well, now from outside Cleary's window, straight over to it's a parcels office now, that door. Not the front door, that side door. And I knocked there, and a volunteer in uniform opened the door, and I asked if I could speak to Pierce. Mr. Pierce said, and yes, he said he closed the door behind me and brought me over towards Pierce, and I asked him if I had a friend I was inquiring for, and he told me that if I tried Peter Street or Bishop Street that I'd find him there. So I asked him if he'd allow me to stay there. He asked me what could I do. I said I'd do anything. And Connolly was standing by now, and he asked me would I do dispatches. I said I'd do anything. So I helped as best I could after that. I was mostly with Louise Gavin Duffy and Desmond Fitzgerald. They were looking after the rations. So I hadn't much business around the rest of the building, and besides I didn't know anybody there, except that I did get to know a girl from Liverpool. Some people had come over from Liverpool on the Sunday morning, and her brother was sent to Jacobs, she told me. But I met her there, and we were friends for the rest of the time. I was given trays and things to bring round the things, and there were prisoners down at the very end of a long landing, a narrow, and it was a bit weird bringing down the big tray into this narrow little place, and the Helga making noise outside. But the prisoners were down at the very end in a room, about 4 or 5, and I used to bring rations down to them.
And what were they like? What were they saying?
Well, of course, they were a bit worried because they didn't know what was going to happen, and they were worried.
And what was life like in the GPO during the week?
It was great. There was no fear. Nobody was afraid, except, as I told you, those. And they were a bit afraid because they felt that they had no interest in being there. And, well, we were all right. We had the interest outside, so there was no one afraid outside.
And when you were inside as well, did you come across Jim Ryan?
I did.
And what was he doing?
Yes, well, he was up. There was a room which they were. He was a doctor, or he was a
medical student then, yes.
Maybe he was a full doctor. And Phyllis, I saw her there that day. I was brought up. I got faint, and I was taken up there. So after a few minutes, I came down all right. But it was Jim Ryan and Phyllis I met there. But I saw Connolly taken in wounded. I saw him being carried in wounded. My area was a bit limited. I wasn't much through the building because, as I said, I wasn't part of the organisation. One boy was taken down from the roof. He got wounded in head, and he was taken down. McGrath was his name. However, he lived for a long time after, and thank goodness. But I met a lot of the lads, although I didn't know their names. But they were on the windows behind the barricades, and well, they had time to say hello now and again. On the Friday, about 12, we were all called. All they came from, I didn't see her. It was that day that I saw a good many that were, that I hadn't seen all the week. And he called all those that weren't nurses. And he met us addressed us in the hall. I don't know what you call the front of the post office there. And he thanked us for what we had done. But he said it had come to the point when they were only needing nurses to attend to the wounded. And he said that he was letting the rest of us go. And he said very nice things to us. I can't recall them, but he did thank us very much for what we did. And Father Flanagan, and then I saw him for the first time, and he went out the door first. The door at Henry Street. And he went out and he had this white flag, and we went out after. I went on up, and there were several barricades across the road on up Henry Street. And there were different people, saw people dead on the road, on the footpaths. And Father Flanagan, when we got up as far as Jervis Street, he turned left round by the convent, attached to Jervis Street Hospital. And he went in there for a few minutes, and I could hear, I'm speaking for myself, I could hear an organ playing inside. So he came out, and we had to, whether it is that he thought we might go in there, I don't know. But we turned back, he turned back, and we went on up to Capel Street. And then we met the military there. There was a big barricade across the top of Mary Street there at Capel Street. It was a bit difficult to cross. So from there we went on up under guard to up, as I said, Bolton Street, Dorset Street, up the North Circular Road, and up past Phibsborough Church, going towards the park, and crossed the railway bridge, and just beyond the bridge, this little a narrow gate, what you'd see on a private house. And this was a narrow path, and it was pretty long. And we arrived at the Broadstone station.
And what was it like when the Helga started shelling?
Well, it was tough, really, but there was nobody afraid. This girl, Kathleen Murphy, we became great friends there. She was from Liverpool, I was telling you. And this evening we were very tired, and we hadn't slept much. Now, I don't say that we did much work, but we did anything we were asked. And we sat down on the ground, and this other noise from the boat, the Helga, was it the Helga? And it was very loud, and it seemed to be at our heads. So anyhow, we lay down, and J.J. Walsh came over later on, and he put coats over us. And I'm only telling you, this is a funny story. And well, I thought she was asleep, and she thought I was asleep. But no, we woke up together, whatever it was. And she put her arms around me and she says, "May, we're going to heaven together."